Shout out to Ashton Lewis for sending me this post. And I know you're looking at the title. No, this has nothing to do with the show Empire falling, even though the show has pretty much been confirmed to be canceled after its sixth season. But this has nothing to do with Empire. But it does have something to do with something that I and Cerulean Gray have said in our commentaries over time, and that is Empire is definitely falling. And when we say empire, we're talking about the palm colored empire is falling. Myself and Lisa Cabrera and I think True Royal Family are some of the few commentators that y'all are familiar with who have continuously talked about this over time. Now, I've had many people who did not know what the HB481 was, and I had to school them a little bit. Hopefully, after I do this commentary, those who do watch my stuff will now figure out the pieces of the puzzle being put together. Because the article I'm about to read to you is exactly why the HB 481, also known as the heartbeat bill, is being pushed so heavily by a lot of right wing, white male, mostly conservative individuals. So this article is coming from NBC News, and it says birth rate in the U.S. falls to lowest level in 32 years. It says the number of babies born in the U.S. in 2018 fell to the lowest level in 32 years, according to a government report released Wednesday. The numbers are part of a decades-long trend toward fewer and fewer babies being born each year, which means we're getting further away from the possibility of having enough children to replace ourselves. Notice that I bet you, nowhere in this article are they going to mention the actual race of the babies that they're talking about. I'm willing to bet that's going to be the case. The major finding is that fertility rates are reaching record lows, said the report leads author Brady Hamilton, a statistician and demographer at the CDC's National Center for Health Statistics. There have been record lows in the teenage birth rate, which fell 7% compared to 2017. Hamilton and his colleagues found that the total number of births in 2018 at 3,788,235 was down 2% from 2017. The general fertility rate for 2018 was 59 births per 1,000 women aged 15 to 44, another record low for the U.S. For perspective, it's lower than in the years after the Great Depression. In 1936, for example, the general fertility rate was 75.6. That is where when we think of that generation called the baby boomers, that's why they call them that, because that was the generation right there where they were having the most children. Hence the name. That's probably the generation name that practically speaks for itself. More telling, perhaps, is the drop in the total fertility rate, which also fell 2% compared to 2017 figures, to 1,728 births per 1,000 women of childbearing age. For the nation's population to reproduce itself at current numbers and remain stable, the total fertility rate would need to be at least 2,100 births per 1,000 women. So essentially, for the population to remain stable, each woman needs to have at least 2 babies. At 2,000, there would be enough children to replace fathers and mothers. The extra 100 is to account for deaths. Now, I'm looking through this article, and it puts up a screenshot from a video, and it shows a white mother with a white child. So I guess that's their way of acknowledging who this is going towards without them actually having to say who it's about. The CDC doesn't explain why birth rates are declining. I can think of a few ideas as to why. There was some good news in the new report. Fewer babies are being born to teens. In fact, there are record low for teenage birth rates. This year's rate is 7% lower than in 2017. Overall, the report finds that younger women are having fewer babies, with the only demographic seeing an increase in birth rates is women in their late 30s and early 40s. The pattern seen in the U.S. echo what's been happening in many developed countries, said Dr. John W. Rowe, a professor at Columbia University Mailman School of Public Health. For comparison, the total fertility rate in Europe is 1.58 in Southern Europe, meaning Spain and Italy is 1.3, and in Japan is 1.44. So this is not unprecedented. There are some serious implications that could result from the declining birth rates. Long term, it means we're going to have an increasing proportion of older people. All the projections about what percent the population will be elderly in 5, 10, 20 years from now were made with the assumption that the birth rate would be stable. The lower birth rate will have a significant impact on the labor force. Japan in particular is having issues related to declining birth rates because of its immigration policies. They don't have an adequate workforce to take care of a very large elderly population. It's a real challenge for them. Studies have shown that women are delaying both marriage and childbirth, said Donna Strobino, professor and chair of education, population, family, and reproductive health at the Johns Hopkins Bloomberg School of Public Health. We're clearly in the throes of major social change with regard to women getting married and choosing to have children. There's no question that part of the explanation for that is economic. It's very expensive to raise children these days, and in part it's social, all the changes in women roles. Still, there are hints in the new report that the current trend could at least partially reverse itself. It's perhaps not as gloom and doom as some may think. She points to the increase in the number of babies being born to women in their late 30s and early 40s, which she sees as a possible sign that fertility rate could recover potentially. It's possible that women have been postponing pregnancy, may have had the babies we're planning to have, and that could reverse the trend. As a fertility specialist, I worry that delaying childbearing will result in more fertility problems. Fertility, particularly women's fertility, declines with age. I've seen numerous couples who have waited too long. Some have been married for more than 10 years before they think about having kids. There have been many advances in fertility treatment, but there's still no treatment for reproductive aging. And that, ladies and gentlemen, right there is pretty much why Empire is falling. Notice a lot in the article kept mentioning how a lot of women are waiting late to have children past the childbearing age. And the childbearing age is usually like late teens, mid to slightly late 20s, maybe early, and I do mean very early 30s. But when you start to push towards your late 30s and your 40s and stuff like that, then you're risking having children. That's why when Janet Jackson had her child, a lot of people were worried because she had a child at 50 and she was able to go full term. But that doesn't mean that everyone else should do the same thing, because that was a huge risk right there that she took, having a child at her age, at that age. It's safe to say that she won't be having any more children. The same thing could be said for Mariah Carey. She had twins in her mid 40s or maybe early 40s. Another risk, another high risk pregnancy, and hers was higher than Janet's because she was having 2 children at the same time. But I've noticed that, like they said, there's a trend of a lot of women wanting to wait late in the game to have children, and they run the risk of having fertility issues down the line. But that pretty much knocks it out, because once you have that one child at that age, you're not going to want to have any more children. And they said in the article, the only way they can recover from this is if each woman in the establishment gets pregnant and has 2 children. So basically, she can either give birth to twins and pretty much knock it out in one fell swoop, which is rare, or you would have to pretty much go through the childbirthing thing 2 times. Because you notice back in the day, having big giant families was a thing. That's why they called it the baby boomer generation. Having a lot of children wasn't abnormal, but nowadays it seems like it is. Like, you don't see a lot of big families nowadays. But this is why they created the heartbeat bill, because they know that they are in a decline. And realize nowhere in this article did they give any demographics race-wise. And we know why that is, because we know who it's affecting. They won't come outright and say it, but we can read between the lines. Y'all let me know what y'all think about this down in the comments. Like, share, subscribe, and I will talk to you in the next one.